What's up, nerds? I'm Kendrick, your not-so-friendly neighborhood otaku, and welcome to my channel where I talk all things anime, manga, manhwa, and webcomics. If that's the type of thing you're into, then subscribe, because I'll put one video out every Thursday to Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard, and 2 to 3 shorts out every Monday to Wednesday, also at 1 p.m. Today, I'm going to be continuing the series where I go back and read the Jujutsu Kaisen manga over from the beginning and bring you all along with me. As always, this series is great for anyone who's a first-time JJK fan, anime only, who wants to get caught up, or who, like me, as the series progresses, begins forgetting some of those smaller details and bits of key information from early on in the series. So, without further ado, let's get into Volume 4. In Chapter 26, Yuuji tells Nanami he's going to stop Junpei, but Nanami tells him to remain on standby, hoping the curtain's still up when he gets there. Inside Mahito's lair, where Nanami took the call, he tells Takuma if he's able to handle the curses surrounding them, he'll give him a grade 1 recommendation. Ichichi tells Yuuji it's their job to help people, including students like himself, so he shouldn't go, but Yuuji doesn't listen. Yuuji squares off against Junpei, who uses moondrakes to summon a jellyfish-like Shikigami. Yuuji is able to land a punch, but the Shikigami continues to get between him and Junpei. Junpei tells Yuuji to leave, saying he has nothing to do with this, but Yuuji says it's not for him to decide. Then, as Junpei's Shikigami surrounds Yuuji, he questions what the point is of thoughtlessly saving people, claiming that the compassion of righteous people is just a lie. He says that if someone deserves to die, no one has the right to stop that, and he begins to walk away. We then jump back to Mahito revealing to Junpei that his curse technique is poison, which will be emitted from his Shikigami's tendrils. Back to the present fight, however, we see Yuuji reach out through the Shikigami and grab Junpei's shirt, throwing him through a window and following behind closely. Junpei realizes that his Shikigami's poison isn't working, and he questions why Yuuji's getting in the way. He thinks back to his mother as his Shikigami cushions his fall. Then, with Yuuji still mid-air, he takes advantage of his position and prepares to attack, but Yuuji uses Divergent Fist to break the ground apart, avoiding the attack. Yuuji says that it sounds like Junpei's trying to convince himself that what he's saying is actually right. As he says this, he thinks back to his conversation with Gojo, where he learned the way to attack a Shikigami is to attack a Shikigami's user, so he aims his attack for Junpei. He sends Junpei flying back into the school through another window with a cursed energy-packed punch. While he's down, Yuuji tries to find out why Junpei's doing this. There must be a reason. Is it really worth throwing away his life? Junpei says that having a heart is a sham, and Yuuji questions if he would say that to his mom. Standing firm on his belief that people do not have a heart, Junpei asks with tears rolling down his eyes if he and his mom were cursed by people who have a heart. If they truly have a heart and that's what they considered fair, then he's no longer able to understand what's right and what's wrong. Junpei then grabs his Shikigami stinger and prepares to attack, but Yuuji doesn't dodge, allowing the stinger to pierce him in the shoulder. Yuuji then tries to calm down the confused Junpei, asking if he could talk to him as a friend, saying that he would never judge him. He asks Junpei to come with him to Jujutsu High so they can figure out who cursed his mom. Just as he tells Junpei they can fight together, Mahito appears. In Chapter 27, Yuuji notices Mahito walking down the stairs and he feels something is off, wondering if Mahito is a human. But he soon learns the truth as Mahito greets him as Sukuna's vessel and transmogrifies his arm, pinning him against a wall. Junpei yells for Mahito to wait, but he doesn't listen. Realizing it's the human-like cursed spirit with the patchwork face that Nanami described, Yuuji tells Junpei to run. He doesn't know how he knows Mahito, but he's gotta get out of there. Junpei claims that Mahito's not a bad person, but then he thinks back to the transmogrified humans he saw when in Mahito's hideout. Still pinning Yuuji to the wall, Mahito takes his free hand and places it on Junpei's shoulder, saying that for being a pretty smart guy, he overthinks when he should act. He says Junpei is just as stupid as he thinks other people are, then uses idle transfiguration to transmogrify Junpei, saying he's going to die. Releasing his grip on Yuuji, Mahito claims it's time for round 2 of Yuuji's fight against the now transmogrified Junpei. Stunned, Yuuji just stands there as Junpei begins to attack. He tries reasoning with him, telling him to get it together and that he's going to help, but the transmogrified Junpei doesn't respond and only continues attacking. After taking several hits, Yuuji calls for Sukuna, asking him to fix Junpei in the same way that he fixed his heart. But Sukuna says no, pleased that this means Yuuji has forgotten the binding vow they made. Mahito questions if this means Sukuna can't use reverse curse technique to heal others, as he continues to berate Yuuji for being a pathetic, stupid brat. As Yuuji continues to try and subdue the transmogrified Junpei, Mahito and Sukuna laugh at him, reminding Yuuji that they are and will always be curses. Then the transmogrified Junpei begins to slump down and calls out Yuuji's name. Mahito laughs, asking if he's already dead, but Yuuji punches him hard in the face with Divergent Fist, sending him up the stairs. Mahito then begins to explain that attacks won't matter as long as he's able to maintain the shape of his soul, but he stops. Since Yuuji is a vessel, there's another soul that lives in his body. This makes him naturally perceptive to the contours of the soul. Now, Yuuji is furious and claims he's going to kill Mahito. In chapter 28, Mahito thinks if killing Junpei wasn't enough to force Yuuji into a binding vow, he'll mutilate every student there until he eventually gives in, and they bring Sukuna over to their side. This strategy assumes Mahito is stronger than Yuuji, however, he feels his mortal enemy in Yuuji. Angered, Yuuji lashes out and tries to strike Mahito, but he reshapes his soul and gives his body wings, allowing himself to get away. Yuuji notices he keeps distorting his body and questions if he should stop trying to grab or throw him. Mahito now knows that Yuuji's attacks can hurt him, and he doesn't want to give him a larger target to hit. Yuuji decides he'll give it his all and take Mahito down no matter how much or how long it takes, while Mahito simultaneously decides he needs to embody a purer, more inspired form. Mahito then distorts his body to have 3 long, curvy blades slashing apart their surroundings. Yuuji dodges and escapes outside while Mahito reshapes his arm into a drill and fires it at Yuuji. Yuuji avoids the drill but grabs onto the flesh, connecting it back to Mahito. However, that bit of flesh then transforms and pierces through Yuuji's hands, but he continues to hold on and yanks on that bit of flesh, knocking Mahito down. Mahito notes that if he overexerts himself, he loses control and his durability weakens. Yuuji goes on offense, rushing Mahito and landing a powerful punch. But Mahito ignores this damage, smiling and creating more spikes to pierce Yuuji's abdomen. With Yuuji stunned by the attack, Mahito claims his opponent can't win and asks Sukuna to switch places with him. He then tries reshaping Yuuji's soul with idle transfiguration, but Sukuna stops him and tells Mahito to know his place. Yuuji then claps Mahito's ears, saying he's going to kill him and headbutting him hard. As Mahito stumbles backwards, Yuuji strikes him with a powerful kick that nearly decapitates him. But suddenly, Mahito appears behind Yuuji with one of his arms transformed into a mace. Before he can crush Yuuji, we see Nanami swoop in with his ratio technique. In chapter 29, we see Nanami tell Yuuji he'll scold him later and ask to get caught up on the situation. He realizes Mahito's nose is bleeding, and Yuuji explains that happened when he first attacked him at the beginning of their fight. Nanami then explains that his attacks don't affect Mahito, but he is able to stifle his movements. Their plan is to create openings from each other and both attack relentlessly as they need to exercise him here and now. Mahito plans to keep an eye on Yuuji and take Nanami out first, but they both attack simultaneously. Mahito then distorts his body into a ball of spikes, forcing them away, but they continue attacking and breaking off the spikes. Getting closer to his core body, Nanami and Yuuji are about to attack when Mahito transforms into a child-sized body, so their attack misses. Nanami and Yuuji, however, realize that before transforming his body, he saved cursed energy. Mahito then spits out 3 transmogrified humans, telling them to kill Yuuji. Nanami prepares to handle them in Yuuji's case when Mahito suddenly pins him to a wall. Yuuji tries to avoid the transmogrified humans by jumping onto a roof, but they follow him. Yuuji grabs one by the throat and holds his hand back ready to attack, but he wavers, and the other 2 transmogrified humans attack, asking him to please kill them. Mahito believes that Yuuji can't distinguish between expectation and reality, but Nanami counters, saying Yuuji's learning to make that distinction right now. Then Yuuji jumps down from above Nanami, smashing Mahito's arm that has him pinned. Realizing this means Yuuji killed the 3 transmogrified humans, he's taken off guard when Nanami attacks. As he plans to change his shape before Nanami lands another attack, Yuuji strikes Mahito with a powerful punch. Yuuji and Nanami attack Mahito with multiple hits as he realizes there's no time to make a decoy. Thinking he's approaching death, Mahito creates hands inside his mouth to use domain expansion's self-embodiment of perfection, trapping only Nanami inside with him. In chapter 30, outside of the domain, Yuuji pounds on the surface, knowing that you cannot evade attacks and all hits are fatal. Nanami reflects on how Jujutsu sorcerers are trash since they expect their comrades to sacrifice their lives at any moment, which is why he originally ran away from the sorcerer world. We then flash back to Nanami buying the same lunch he buys every day from a bakery. The woman running the bakery has a fly-head curse attached to her, and he thinks it'll be fine left alone, not wanting to get involved. Back at the office, Nanami questions the work they do, never wondering about his purpose of life, only wanting to make enough money to retire. In fact, the only thing Nanami's thought about since leaving Jujutsu High is money, not curses or others. But at the bakery the next day, Nanami asks the woman how she's doing since she appears tired. He then talks about how his job is to just make rich people richer, whereas she's feeding people, so it doesn't make sense that he's making more money. He asks her to step forward as he exercises the curse before leaving the bakery. She runs out to thank him, and he decides to call Gojo and return back to Jujutsu High. Back in Mahito's domain, Nanami says he has no regrets as he's received enough gratitude already. Then, before Mahito can attack, Yuuji breaks into the domain. The more a barrier is enforced on the inside, the more vulnerable it is from the outside. Although victory is almost guaranteed for the caster of domain, with Yuuji breaking in, Mahito is visibly nervous. Sukuna then reminds him that there would be no second time as he slashes 2 deep gashes into his torso and destroys the domain. Sukuna couldn't care less if Mahito and Nanami survived, he only cares about himself with the exception of Megumi. With his domain shattered and severely injured, Mahito falls to his knees. In chapter 31, Yuuji realizes this is his chance to finish off Mahito while he's down, and he rushes him. Mahito's cursed energy is drained from using domain expansion, but as Yuuji gets closer, he decides to use the rest of his cursed energy to make his body as big as a building. With such a large target and his energy drained, Yuuji thinks there's no way he's going to be able to counter his attack. With pure killing intent, Yuuji uses Divergent Fist to attack Mahito, but his body disappears into thin air and he escapes down a sewer grate. Nanami makes a call to report Mahito's position as Yuuji collapses behind him. Down in the sewers, Mahito notes that even though Sukuna's cursed energy level is less than Jogo's at the moment, his soul is on another level. He claims that even if they're all annihilated, if Sukuna survives, the age of cursed spirits that they long for will come to fruition. He then reveals that unlike the body, the soul can be killed multiple times, and he thinks about how he should kill Yuuji next. Yuuji tells Nanami he killed humans today, referring to the transmogrified humans he fought, and he questions what it means to die a natural death. Thinking the deaths of the good should be peaceful and the deaths of the bad should be punishment ignores the gray area we exist in between strictly good and evil. However, death comes for us all. Nanami then tells Yuuji not to die because he wants to give other people a natural death. There will be others out there who will come to rely on him and need his help, officially acknowledging Yuuji as a jujutsu sorcerer. Back at Junpei's school, the teacher talks to Shota, asking if he's the person who gave Junpei the scar on his head. Shota points out that his arm hasn't been the same since Junpei's attack, but the teacher reminds him that what he did wrong still needs to be punished and that his own punishment is coming for him soon. They must both live in sin for killing Junpei's heart. In chapter 32, Jogo sits deep in the mountains near a hot spring enjoying a pipe when a naked Mahito runs and jumps in the water, splashing him. Tsurugeto notices Mahito's lack of cursed energy and he explains his run-in with Sukuna's vessel, which confirmed that Yuuji is his mortal enemy. Tsurugeto then explains that a binding vow can't be entered into via force or coercion, which makes Mahito think he should have attacked Junpei directly rather than transmogrifying him. He admits to Jogo, though, that he now understands the importance of bringing Sukuna over to their side. They agree to collect all of Sukuna's fingers and offer them to him, including the 6 that are currently at Jujutsu High. Even though Yuuji is consuming those fingers, the higher-ups are still figuring out Yuuji's capacity as a vessel, unsure of how many fingers he can eat at once before losing control. Back at Jujutsu High, Gojo tells Nanami he didn't think Yuuji would be dealing with a cursed spirit as powerful as Mahito when he sent him on a tough mission. They didn't tell Yuuji that a finger was found at Junpei's house either, as he would feel responsible. Yuuji then bursts in and he and Gojo decide to surprise his classmates who still think he's dead at the Kyoto Goodwill Event. Outside, Megumi and the second years wait for Nobara, who arrives carrying luggage, confused that the Kyoto Goodwill Event is with Kyoto, not in Kyoto, as the event is held at the school of the previous year's winner. Even though Maki, Inumaki, and Panda didn't fight last year, Yuta was able to compete with Rika, so Kyoto didn't stand a fighting chance. Then the Kyoto students arrive. When Nobara asks where their souvenirs are, Mekamaru notes that they probably have too much of a handicap with 2 first years competing and Yuta not. Noritoshi says that age is irrelevant when it comes to jujutsu sorcerers, and they even have Megumi competing, who's probably more reliable than the head of the Zenin clan. Urahime tells her students to stop fighting and asks where that idiot is, referring to Gojo. Then Gojo arrives pushing a cart and tosses some souvenirs over to the Kyoto students. He then turns his attention to the Jujutsu High students as Yuji pops out of the cart, revealing he's still alive. Despite Gojo saying Yuji's friends will laugh when they find out he's still alive, he ends up looking at their shocked faces. After revealing Sukuna's vessel, Principal Gakuganji chides Gojo while Yuji apologizes to his friends for not telling them he's still alive. In chapter 33, we learn that day 1 of the Kyoto Goodwill event will be a team event called Spirit Bash Race. The team to first exercise the grade 2 curse in the designated area wins, but there are also grade 3 and lower curses. If the grade 2 curse isn't exercised by sunset, then the team with the most exorcisms win. While they're allowed to interfere with their opponents, killing and incapacitating them is prohibited. As they wait for the event to start, the Jujutsu students have Yuji hold a memorial frame around his head as punishment for making them think he was dead. Here he learns Inumaki uses cursed speech, which is why he has to limit his everyday vocabulary so he doesn't hurt himself or others. Maki then asks Yuji to return the curse tool Demon Slaughter, and he decides it's safer to tell her Gojo has it rather than explaining how he broke it. They try to strategize how to best use each other's abilities in this first event, and Megumi notes that if it comes down to a brawl with no cursed energy, Yuji will win. On the Kyoto side of things though, Principal Gakuganju tells his students to kill Yuji. They should not consider him human, and he'll make sure it gets covered up as an accident. Noritoshi then explains the way to eliminate an enemy Jujutsu sorcerer is to prevent them from using cursed energy so they don't turn into a curse after death. Aoi says this is stupid and begins to leave when Noritoshi tells him the principal's still talking. However, Aoi's favorite idol Takata is going to be on a show at 11, and he's not going to stick around here and wait to watch a recording. He then calls out Principal Gakuganji for having crappy taste in girls, saying he can do whatever he wants in terms of plotting and scheming, but don't tell him what to do or else he'll kill him. With Aoi and the principal now gone, the other students discuss what to do. Noritoshi says it's a disgrace that Yuji's even at Jujutsu High, and as a member of the Kamo clan, he finds it unforgivable, saying they should all attack Yuji. Meanwhile, Gojo talks to Urahime about how someone from the school is either working with a cursed spirit or a curse user. He asks her to investigate the Kyoto side of things as he knows she doesn't have the guts to be the mole. Elsewhere, Megumi talks to Yuji asking if he's okay because something must have happened. Yuji brushes it off saying he's okay, and it's because of what happened that he doesn't want to lose anyone anymore. With that, the Jujutsu High students are ready for the Goodwill event. In chapter 34, the final chapter in this volume, Gojo announces the 1-minute warning before the start of the first event. He then hands the microphone to Urahime for a word of encouragement, and she does a terrible job, saying that some injuries are unavoidable and they should work together. Then the event begins. The Jujutsu students decided that they will split up at a later time, but first they run into a grade 3 curse. Before they can exercise it though, Aoi appears breaking off the branch that the curse is attached to. With a wild look in his face, he tells everyone to come at him all at once. Then Yuji comes out of nowhere, grabbing onto the sides of his head and kneeing him as hard as he can in the face while the Jujutsu students get away. Before the event, Maki theorized that Aoi will come directly for them and Mai will follow closely behind to target her. So they plan to leave Aoi to Yuji, letting him buy enough time for them to escape. As Aoi and Yuji go head to head, Aoi easily brushes off Yuji's attack. He then tells him to defend himself like his life depends on it. Yuji throws the grade 3 curse at Aoi, who obliterates it and rushes Yuji, who brings his arms up to defend himself, but he's still blown backwards into a tree. As Yuji recovers from the attack, Aoi comes at him again, stomping his head back into the tree. Seeing Yuji slump down against the tree, Aoi thinks he's already finished and begins to walk away. Then Yuji calls out to him, saying hitting his head like that could have made him dumber than he already is. Aoi says Takata likes dumb guys, but Yuji says he couldn't care less about idols. Getting ready to fight again, Aoi then asks Yuji what type of girl he likes. And that is volume 4. For those of you who made it all the way to the end, thank you so much for sticking around, and keep your eye out for next week where I'll post the full synopsis for volume 5. Also, if you've watched any of my previous videos where I reshelve my entire manga collection or break down what I've already completed reading so far this year, you'll know that I'm putting a couple things up on my Mercari and OfferUp. If you're looking to buy any of those series, I recommend you check it out because it'll be taking them off of my hands and putting them into yours. That is all for today, and I will see you next time.